Hello and welcome, everyone. Close your eyes, take a slow, deep breath, and let the gentle quiet of the night settle around you. Allow the noise of the modern world to fade away, step by step, leaving only the calm, rhythmic rise and fall of your breathing. Welcome to Sleepy Space Stories. If you enjoy unwinding with these peaceful journeys through time, please take a soft moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel to join our nightly voyages. Now, sink comfortably into your space, let go of the day, and let us begin our journey back to the very beginning, to Chapter 1, the Jurassic Savanna. Close your eyes and let the quiet weight of the present moment begin to fade away. Allow the sounds of your room to soften, standardizing into a gentle, steady rhythm that pulls you further and deeper into restful silence. Step backward, far beyond the ticking of clocks, beyond the rise and fall of human cities, beyond the very memory of the world you know. We are traveling back across an unimaginable sea of time, drifting backward through millions upon millions of years, until we land softly on the Earth, as it was 150 million years ago, in the golden twilight of the late Jurassic. The air here is different. It is thick, warm, and rich with the scents of damp earth, resinous wood, and the subtle, sweet musk of wild, untamed flora. You are standing in what will one day become the high plains and rocky canyonlands of the American West. But tonight, there are no mountains carved as you know them, no highways, no skyscraping cities. There is only the vast, rolling expanse of the Morrison floodplain, a sweeping savanna that stretches outward under a sky so broad and clear that the stars seem close enough to touch. Listen closely to the ground beneath you. It is not silent, but it hums with the slow, quiet breathing of an ancient ecosystem. Deep in the dark, rich soil, small things are at work. Early beetles with iridescent shells burrow through damp leaf litter, their tiny legs making microscopic scratches against the decaying fronds. Tiny early mammals, no larger than a quiet field mouse, curl tightly within subterranean burrows, safe and warm, waiting for the cover of night. Above them, on the surface of the dry earth, a gentle wind stirs the low-growing ferns. It whispers through dense thickets of cycads, low, stout plants with tough, crown-like leaves that fan out like stiff green feathers, heavy with dusty pollen. The landscape is defined by contrasts. It is a semi-arid world where seasons of long, sun-drenched drought are broken by the swelling of great, muddy rivers. Right now, in the cool of the evening, the riverbed nearest to you is a wide, shimmering ribbon of liquid bronze, catching the final, fading rays of a massive sun that has just dipped below the flat horizon. Along the muddy banks, primitive horsetails stand like tall, green candles, their jointed stems rustling softly as the current gently laps against their roots. Small, sleek amphibians slide into the slow-moving water with scarcely a splash, creating delicate, expanding rings of light on the river's dark surface. Further back from the river's edge, the ground slowly rises into open woodland. Here, ancient conifers, relatives of the modern Araucaria and Norfolk pine, reach high into the deepening twilight. Their branches are arranged in neat, geometric tiers, coated in dark, needle-like foliage that creates a dense canopy. Below them, ancient ginkgo trees drop fan-shaped leaves that whisper as they drift through the cooling air, settling into a thick, springy carpet on the forest floor. The air is still, save for the occasional soft thrum of a giant dragonfly gliding through the shadows, its glassy wings catching the dim light as it weaves between the high branches. This is a world built on a vast, breathtaking scale. Everything here operates on a grander rhythm, a slower heartbeat. The trees are taller, the rivers wider, the sky an infinite bowl of indigo that slowly fills with a dusting of brilliant, unfamiliar constellations. The moon, large and pale, rises over the eastern edge of the savanna, casting a long, silvery glow across the floodplains. In this quiet light, the shadows lengthen, stretching across the open ground like dark, reaching fingers. And then, softly, almost imperceptibly, the rhythm of the night subtly shifts. It begins not as a sound, but as a feeling deep within the soles of your feet, a faint, rhythmic tremor traveling through the cool earth. It is not violent or alarming. It is as gentle and steady as the slow pulsing of the ocean tide. Thump, 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 a distant, measured pulse that vibrates through the soil, through the roots of the cycads, and into the air itself. The tiny creatures in the leaf litter do not scatter in panic. They simply pause, instinctively recognizing the heavy, majestic cadence of something that belongs to this world more completely than anything else. Look out toward the distant horizon, where the edge of the dark conifer forest meets the pale twilight sky. At first, you see only the jagged, spiky shapes of the tree line. But then, as your eyes adjust to the soft moonlight, you notice a shadow among shadows. It is a shape so immense, so incredibly tall, that your mind at first tries to process it as part of the landscape, a high, rounded hill, or perhaps the rising trunk of a colossal tree that dwarfs all the others around it. Slowly, deliberately, the shadow moves. It rises far above the level of the forest canopy, a towering silhouette that seems to touch the stars themselves. It does not burst into view. It emerges with a slow, stately grace, materializing from the warm evening haze like a mountain coming to life. First, you discern the long, sweeping curve of a neck, an elegant, powerful column that reaches straight up into the higher layers of the cooling air, high above the highest branches of the ancient pines. At the top of this incredible column rests a small, finely carved head, silhouetted against the bright, silver disk of the moon. This is Brachiosaurus. It moves with an unhurried, almost hypnotic rhythm. Each step is a masterclass in slow, deliberate motion. Unlike other giant creatures of this age whose bodies trail low to the ground, this titan is built like a living cathedral. Its front limbs are extraordinarily long, lifting its mighty shoulders high into the air, giving its back a steep, sweeping incline that rolls down toward its shorter hind legs and trailing tail. It walks with a gentle, swaying gait, a majestic mountain of muscle, bone, and ancient life moving through the Jurassic night. As it draws a little closer to the forest edge, you can hear the soft, deep sounds of its existence. There is the slow, cavernous intake of its breath, a deep, resonant sigh that sounds like the wind moving through a vast sea cave. You can hear the heavy, gentle crunch of dried vegetation and soil under its massive, pillar-like feet, each footprint a deep basin pressed into the soft earth. The grand creature pauses near a grove of tall, mature conifers. It does not rush. Time for a creature of this magnitude passes differently. It elevates its great head even higher, reaching into the sun-warmed upper leaves of the canopy, a food source entirely untouchable by any other living thing on the planet. Its long, muscular neck moves with incredible fluidity, curving softly as its head weaves among the high branches. You hear the crisp, satisfying sound of tough pine needles and tender young cones being stripped away by peg-like teeth, a quiet, steady harvesting in the calm of the night. The immense animal turns its head slightly, its large, dark eye catching a sliver of moonlight. There is a deep, tranquil intelligence in that look, an ancient calmness born of millions of years of uninterrupted dominance. It is a creature entirely at home in its world, completely untroubled by the small anxieties of the forest floor. Up here, in the cool upper air, it moves in a realm of its own, bathed in the soft light of the Jurassic moon, surrounded by the quiet murmurs of the ancient canopy. The warm breeze carries the rich, earthy scent of the giant, a mixture of warm skin, crushed pine, and clean river water. Above, the stars shift slowly in their ancient tracks, casting a soft, pale illumination over the creature's broad, mottled flank. Every breath it takes is slow and deep, setting a peaceful, rhythmic pace for the entire floodplain. The world around it seems to settle into this effortless cadence. The wind lowers its voice to a gentle hum. The river flows like liquid velvet, and the distant calls of nocturnal creatures fade into a soft, harmonious background chorus. The Brachiosaurus takes another slow, deliberate step forward, its massive body blotted out briefly by the thick trunk of an ancient conifer, before re-emerging into the open moonlight. It sways gently as it feeds, a quiet guardian of the primeval night, moving through a world where time seems to stand completely still. As you watch this magnificent silhouette against the starry sky, feeling the gentle, rhythmic vibrations of its steady heartbeat through the earth, a deep sense of stillness settles over you. The ancient savanna is quiet, peaceful, and vast. The great giant moves slowly onward, a living bridge between the earth and the heavens, stepping effortlessly through the warm, quiet darkness. And as the Titan takes another long, measured step into the misty shadows of the distant valley, leaving behind only the soft rustle of leaves and the quiet breathing of the ancient night, you find yourself drifting further, floating along the calm currents of this long-forgotten world, ready to follow where its slow, majestic journey leads next. Chapter 2. A neck that touched the clouds. Imagine, if you will, standing at the edge of a world where gravity seems to hold a different meaning, where the boundary between the earth beneath your feet and the sky above begins to blur. The cool night air of the Jurassic floodplain wraps around you like a soft, heavy blanket, carrying the clean, sharp scent of damp earth and crushed evergreen needles. All around, the darkness is vast and quiet, but it is not an empty quiet. It is a breathing, living silence that stretches across miles of ancient river valley. And right here, directly before you, rests a living monument carved not from stone, but from bone, muscle, and a deep, tranquil pulse that seems to slow down time itself. To stand beside this creature is to lose your sense of human scale entirely. Positioned near the base of its body, you are no taller than the upper curve of its massive foot. Look down at that foot, pressed deep into the soft, dark soil. It is a wide, sturdy pillar, broad as an ancient tree stump, rooted firmly into the earth. The weight it carries is unimaginable, yet the soil is not violently torn. It is simply pressed down into a deep, smooth basin that slowly fills with the cool moisture of the ground. Rising up from this foundation are legs like living columns of stone, wrapped in thick, textured skin that feels as cool and weathered as river-smoothed granite. There are no sudden, sharp movements here, only a steady, immovable stability that makes the very ground beneath you feel safe and unshakable. As your eyes travel upward along those magnificent front legs, you realize how fundamentally different this titan is from every other giant that ever walked the earth. Where most of its distant kin carried their bodies low and balanced like long, heavy suspension bridges, this creature was built to reach for the heavens. Its front legs are astonishingly long, far longer than its hind limbs, lifting its broad chest and massive shoulders high into the air. This gives its entire body a dramatic, sweeping incline, a gentle, downward slope that starts at the towering ridge of its shoulders and rolls softly down toward its hips, ending in a surprisingly short, heavy tail that rests quietly near the ground, acting as a simple, grounding counterweight to the sheer majesty above. And then there is the neck. To look up at this neck is to gaze into the upper atmosphere. It does not stretch out horizontally across the plains like a fallen trunk. It rises nearly straight up into the air, a sweeping muscular column that ascends fully 9 meters above the shoulders. Reaching higher than a 3-story building, it climbs up and up, piercing the lower layers of the cool night mist, passing through the dark tiers of the conifer canopy, until the small, elegant head at the very tip is barely distinguishable against the silver glow of the moon. From where you stand at the base, looking up along that incredible curve, the head seems less like a part of an animal and more like a quiet star drifting slowly through the high branches, completely detached from the terrestrial world below. There is something profoundly serene about this height. Up there, in the quiet stratum of the sky, the air moves differently. It is cooler, untamed, and sweet with the delicate perfume of the highest canopy, tender, sap-rich leaves and soft green cones that no other creature on the planet could ever hope to reach. For every other living thing on this ancient floodplain, life is a constant, watchful struggle on the forest floor, a place of sharp senses, quick shadows, and perpetual vigilance. But up here, 9 meters above the ground, there is only peace. No predator, no matter how quick or fierce, could ever reach this sanctuary in the clouds. The high canopy is an isolated paradise, a kingdom of total invulnerability where the titan feeds in absolute, undisturbed tranquility. Listen closely to the gentle symphony of its existence. You can hear the slow, rhythmic sweep of that long neck as it weaves effortlessly through the upper boughs of an ancient araucaria tree. The motion is impossibly fluid, like a ribbon floating on a calm current. Despite the immense weight of bone and tendon, The neck moves with a weightless, dreamlike grace. Inside those colossal vertebrae, nature engineered delicate, air-filled chambers, hollow spaces that stripped away heavy stone and replaced it with light, living structure, allowing this unbelievable column to rise toward the stars without burden. With every subtle turn of its head, there is a soft, satisfying sound, the crisp, rhythmic gathering of high leaves, followed by a slow, gentle rustle as the branches settle back into the still night air. Down below, deep within the broad, cavernous chest, you can hear the deep, majestic rhythm of its life. A heart the size of a soft armchair beats with a slow, powerful cadence, pumping life all the way up that magnificent height, driving warmth to the very tip of the crown. It is a sound so steady, so resonant, that your own breathing naturally slows down to match it. In and out, deep and long, syncing your pulse with the ancient heartbeat of the world. Standing here in the shadow of this gentle giant, the sheer magnitude of its size does not feel terrifying or overwhelming. It feels deeply protective. The immense mass of its body creates a quiet sanctuary beneath it, a zone of stillness shielded from the night wind. The gentle rise and fall of its sides acts like a slow pendulum, ticking away the peaceful seconds of a long-forgotten age. You realize that for a creature like this, size is not a display of power or dominance. Size is simply a way of being quiet. Size is a quiet refuge from the chaotic world below, a way to live entirely in harmony with the sky, the trees, and the stars. The moon moves slowly across the dark vault of the heavens, casting long, soft shadows through the forest. The light catches the smooth curve of the animal's throat, highlighting the gentle, rhythmic pulse of life moving beneath its weathered hide. Up above, the small head turns slightly, catching the faint, cool air currents that blow off the distant mountains. It breathes in deeply, a long, soft sigh that rustling gently through the needle-laden branches, sounding like the softest whisper of an ocean breeze. Every element of this creature is designed for a life of quiet ease. Its teeth are rounded, simple pegs made to gently strip away vegetation, requiring no harsh grinding or frantic effort. Its long neck acts as its own gentle crane, allowing it to sweep across entire groves of high trees without taking more than a single slow step. It lives in a state of perpetual rest, even while moving, effortlessly gathering the bounty of the earth while hovering high above its cares. As you look up once more, past the towering slope of its shoulders, past the elegant, climbing sweep of its neck, to where its silhouette meets the glowing blanket of stars, a profound heaviness settles over your mind. The sheer scale of this world, the quiet majesty of this moment, makes everything else fade into total insignificance. The endless chatter of time, the small worries of the day, all dissolve into the vast, cool air of the Jurassic night. There is only the slow, steady pulse of the earth, the soft rustle of leaves high above, and the timeless, serene giant reaching quietly into the clouds. The Titan pauses its feeding, resting its high head among the highest, softest boughs of the canopy. It remains still, a living mountain bathed in moonlight, holding the sky upon its shoulders. The wind falls completely silent, The river flows like a smooth ribbon of dark silk, and the whole world seems to hold its breath in peaceful wonder. And as the shadow of that impossible neck stretches out across the quiet earth, merging softly with the deepening darkness of the forest, the boundary between waking and dreaming begins to dissolve completely. The slow, rhythmic breathing of the giant guides you deeper and deeper into the quiet dark, carrying you effortlessly into a realm of pure, unbroken rest, where the stars are close, the air is still, and time stands forever frozen in the peaceful height of the ancient trees. But high above, in the quietest depths of the night, something subtle begins to change in the cool air, carrying a distant, mysterious scent from far beyond the river's edge. Chapter 3: Weight and Bones. The darkness of the Jurassic night feels heavier now, settled like a velvet blanket over the vast floodplain. The stars overhead shine with a steady, quiet brilliance, piercing through the cool mist that clings to the ancient riverbanks. Every tree, every fern, every breath of the soft night wind seems to exist in a state of tranquil stillness. And yet, beneath this serene surface, a quiet miracle of nature is continuously at work, a masterpiece of design so profound, so delicate in its sheer vastness, that it transforms the impossible into a quiet reality. To behold an animal that weighs as much as an entire woodland grove is to witness a profound dialogue between life and gravity. Gravity is the silent, omnipresent architect of our world, an invisible hand pressing down on every leaf, every drop of water, and every living frame. For a smaller creature, gravity is a minor nuisance, a gentle tug easily overcome with a flick of a wing or a sudden bound through the grass. But when an organism expands to 30, 40, or 60 tons, gravity ceases to be a gentle pull and becomes a crushing weight, a relentless pressure seeking to collapse bone, flatten muscle, and grind movement to a total halt. Yet, as you lie in the stillness of your room, listening to the quiet pulse of the night, imagine how nature gently answered this overwhelming challenge. Evolution did not build a fortress of solid, dead iron. It wove a living, breathing cathedral of bone, a structure engineered to carry impossible weight with a lightness that defies the imagination. If you could peer inside the towering frame of the Brachiosaurus, beneath its thick, weathered hide, you would not find dense, solid rock. You would find an astonishing network of air and stone, an intricate architecture known as pneumatic bone, along the sweeping length of that 9-meter neck, and throughout the great spine. Nature carved away every unneeded ounce of mass. Inside the massive vertebrae bones that individually match the size of a human chest are broad, hollow vaults and delicate, honeycomb-like air sacs. These internal chambers, connected directly to the giant's respiratory system, stripped away the dense, crushing weight of solid bone while leaving behind a matrix of thin, incredibly strong struts and arches. It is the very same principle human engineers would discover millions of years later when constructing towering bridges and soaring cathedrals. Lightened arches, hollow pillars, and internal truss systems that distribute forces outward rather than letting them press downward. The neck of this magnificent titan, rising like a biological tower into the night sky, is not a heavy, solid log. It is a light, flexible, air-filled lattice strong enough to withstand the pulling forces of immense muscles, yet buoyant enough to float upward toward the stars with the gentle effortlessness of a cloud. Lower your eyes now from the sky-reaching neck to the foundation that bears this immense creation. The limbs of the Brachiosaurus are engineered with an elegant, uncompromising simplicity, where smaller, agile animals rely on deep joint angles, quick flexibility, and elastic tendons to spring across the ground. The giant relies on the absolute perfection of the column. Its front legs are almost perfectly straight, locking into a vertical line directly beneath the sweeping weight of its chest and shoulders. There are no deep bends in these knees, no sharp angles in these elbows to create lever points where gravity could gain a foothold. Instead, bone rests directly upon bone, column upon column, allowing the animal's sheer mass to bypass muscle entirely and travel straight down through the skeleton into the earth. The weight is not held up by constant, burning muscular effort. It is supported by the quiet, passive strength of vertical architecture. Standing still requires almost no energy at all for this titan. It rests upon its own bones, as stable and unmoving as a granite cliff, and at the very base of these living pillars are feet designed like broad, cushioned platforms. The soles are backed by thick, fibrous pads of fatty tissue that act as natural shock absorbers. As each massive foot comes down, this supple pad expands outward, gently spreading the immense tonnage over a broad surface area, deadening the impact and distributing the pressure so evenly that the delicate roots of the flora beneath remain unbroken. Think of the beauty in this quiet triumph. Over millions of unhurried years, nature took the most extreme physical pressures of the terrestrial world and sculpted a solution that feels not heavy but harmonious. Every curve of every rib, every air chamber within the spine, every fiber of the footpad was shaped in response to a single continuous lesson: how to exist gracefully within the physical laws of the universe. It is a meditation on balance, showing us that even the most overwhelming burdens can be carried with serenity if the structure within is aligned with nature's fundamental truths. The cool night air sweeps through the higher canopy, carrying the soft, resinous scent of crushed needles as the titan begins to shift its posture. There is no sudden burst of energy, no jarring movement. The shift begins deep within its core, a slow reallocation of balance from one column to another. One front leg lifts from the dark soil. For a brief, suspended moment, 60 tons of living weight rests upon 3 remaining pillars, supported seamlessly by the internal air arches and the locked alignment of its frame. The broad foot swings forward through the low mist, moving with a hypnotic, pendulum-like rhythm. It hovers just above the damp ferns before settling softly back onto the earth. Thump. The sound is not a crash, but a low, deep resonance, a soft, muffled hum that travels gently through the ground, vibrating like a soft note played on an ancient instrument. The earth receives the foot not as an intrusion, but as part of itself. Another leg lifts, sways, and settles. The giant is in motion. 60 tons of life glides across the open Jurassic floodplain, moving with a quiet, stately cadence that feels almost silent against the backdrop of the vast night. The long neck sways subtly with each step, a sweeping arc of grace high above the sleeping forest, carrying its small, tranquil head through the moonlight. It leaves behind deep, smooth impressions in the dark earth, quiet marks of its passage that slowly fill with the cool moisture of the river valley. The world around the Titan remains entirely at peace. The small mammals in their burrows do not startle. The dragonflies resting on the river reeds do not take flight. The giant moves not as a force of destruction, but as a quiet, benevolent presence, a living mountain stepping softly through the mist, floating across the landscape on columns of air and stone. As the majestic silhouette glides slowly toward the wider river bend, fading gradually into the soft grey shadows of the night, the steady, rhythmic pulse of its movement lingers in the air like a soothing lullaby. The ancient world settles back into its deep, unbroken slumber, wrapped in the cool embrace of the stars, as the giant disappears into the calm, quiet horizons of a long-lost time. Chapter 4. The Heart That Had to Work. Imagine stepping inside a living world, a vast and quiet kingdom hidden just beneath a thick, weathered expanse of skin. Outside, the Jurassic night is cool and damp, a silent sea of velvet mist drifting through the ancient conifer groves. But inside this immense creature, there is a deep, glowing warmth, an internal ocean that never cools, a gentle, eternal summer held within a fortress of bone and muscle. To understand this giant is to understand a rhythm of life so slow, so deep, and so profoundly quiet that it feels less like the fleeting pulse of an animal and more like the steady, unyielding turn of the earth itself. At the very center of this vast interior universe rests an organ of incredible power, a masterwork of biological force that performs a quiet miracle with every single pass of the stars. It sits suspended within a cavernous chest, surrounded by broad, arched ribs that curve like the timber frames of an ancient wooden ship. This heart is a colossal furnace of life, a magnificent engine far larger and heavier than a grown human being. It does not beat with the frantic, fluttering panic of a small bird, nor with the brisk, restless rhythm of a hunting cat. Its movement is an event, a slow, deliberate contraction that begins deep within its thick, muscular walls, building with a quiet, unstoppable momentum until it drives a warm, rich wave of life outward into the vast darkness of the body. Think of the monumental journey that blood must take with every single beat. Gravity, the silent tyrant of this ancient world, is constantly pulling downward, trying with all its weight to drag every drop of fluid to the earth. Yet, high above the broad chest, suspended 9 meters in the cool air of the night sky, rests the small, quiet brain of the Titan. To reach that distant height, to carry warmth and life to a mind resting among the stars, that massive heart must generate a pressure unfathomable in our modern world. It must lift a heavy column of liquid straight up into the air, pushing against the relentless drag of the earth, rising past story after story of hollow, air-filled vertebrae, ascending higher and higher until it reaches the quiet crown of the neck. It accomplishes this impossible task not through violence or strain, but through the sheer, majestic power of scale. Deep within the great arteries, vessels as wide as tree trunks, lined with thick, elastic walls, the pressure surges upward in a long, smooth wave. Special valves, spaced delicately like tiny water gates along the vertical climb of the neck, catch the fluid as it rises, holding it steady between beats, preventing it from rushing back down into the depths of the body. The system is a masterclass in hydraulic grace, a continuous, quiet fountain flowing forever upward into the night, keeping the high mind warm, clear, and serene, while the world below slumbers in the dark. And if you were to stand very close to this sleeping giant, resting your hand gently against its cool, textured flank, you would feel that heartbeat not just as a sound, but as a deep, resonant vibration traveling straight into the earth. Thrum, thrum, thrum. It is a low, hypnotic frequency, a sound that exists at the very edge of hearing, vibrating through the damp soil, through the roots of the ancient cycads, and settling deep into your own chest. It is a rhythm that lulls the surrounding forest into a profound sense of safety. Where this heart beats, there is no chaos, no sudden danger, no frantic hurry. There is only the steady, unshakable permanence of a living mountain. Because of its sheer, breathtaking mass, this creature exists in a state of eternal thermal peace. A smaller animal loses its heat quickly to the cool night air, forced to burn through its energy in a constant, frantic struggle to stay warm. But here, within a body composed of tens of thousands of kilograms of living tissue, heat is retained with effortless majesty. The warmth generated deep within its core during the heat of the midday sun remains trapped within its vast frame throughout the long, chilly night. It is a biological sanctuary, an island of steady, comforting warmth that never fades, floating softly through the cool Jurassic mist. This immense warmth creates a unique, dreamlike experience of time itself. For a creature so vast, so warm, and so utterly unbothered by the cold or the threats of the forest floor, time unfolds at a completely different pace. A single breath for this titan is a long, sweeping event, a slow, cavernous expansion of the chest that draws in mountains of sweet, pine-scented air, holding it deeply while the body absorbs its life, before releasing it in a long, soft sigh that rustles the highest needles of the canopy. Where a tiny mammal within the leaf litter experiences 100 frantic moments in the span of a minute, its heart racing, its eyes darting, its life moving at a desperate speed, the Brachiosaurus lives in a world of endless, unhurried stillness. A minute to this giant is merely a single, quiet beat of its heart, a single shift of its weight, a gentle turn of its long neck toward a new cluster of stars. Hours drift by like passing clouds. Night turns to day with the easy, imperceptible flow of a quiet river. To be this large is to be untethered from the frantic rush of the world, to exist in a perpetual, blissful state of slow motion. Listen to the inner life of the animal as it rests under the pale moonlight. Deep within its vast digestive tract, a slow, gentle churning is continuously taking place. Tons of fibrous conifer needles, tough ginkgo fronds, and coarse vegetation gathered during the golden hours of the afternoon, are slowly breaking down in a warm, internal fermentation chamber. Smooth, rounded river stones, swallowed days ago and resting quietly within the gizzard, roll gently against one another with a soft, distant clink, grinding the tough leaves into a soft, digestible slurry. It is the sound of a quiet, internal mill working effortlessly in the dark, turning the ancient forest into pure, steady energy. Everything inside this creature is vast, slow, and deeply alive. Blood flows through dark, warm caverns of muscle like liquid velvet. Air glides through delicate, hollowed-out chambers of bone like wind moving through a canyon. Thoughts drift through its small, peaceful brain like lazy currents in a quiet pond. There is no anxiety here, no tension, no awareness of time passing or tasks left undone. There is only the deep, satisfying sensation of absolute physical harmony, the long neck reaching high into the stillness of the upper atmosphere, sways almost imperceptibly with the slow rhythm of the chest below. Up at the top of that 9-meter pillar, the small head rests against the soft, cool canopy of a massive pine. The eyes, dark and liquid, are half closed, reflecting the faint, silvery glitter of the celestial river arching across the sky. The cool night air washes over its snout, carrying the faint scent of rain falling on distant, unseen mountains, but the breath it returns to the sky is warm, sweet, and rich with the scent of digested resin and earth. The giant is not truly asleep, nor is it fully awake. It exists in that perfect, blissful threshold in between, where the body rests entirely upon its own weight, and the mind floats freely on the quiet currents of existence. The massive heart continues its slow, majestic work, driving warm, oxygen-rich life up, up, and up into the night, maintaining the quiet miracle of this impossible frame without a single moment of strain. With every deep vibration of that chest, the surrounding forest seems to sink a little deeper into its own ancient rest. The rustle of the fern fronds softens, the river glides with a smoother, quieter hush along its muddy banks. The stars shine down with a gentle, steady light that seems to wrap the world in a blanket of timeless peace. The weight of 60 tons is held with total effortlessness, suspended in the cool night by an architecture of air and stone, powered by a heart that works not with fury, but with a deep, serene devotion to life. As you listen to the slow, steady thrum of that distant, internal pulse, your own breathing naturally aligns with the rhythm of the Titan. In and out, slow and deep, sinking down into the soft, warm depths of your own rest. The boundaries of the room around you soften and dissolve, replaced by the vast, quiet expanse of the Morrison floodplain, where the air is warm, the night is long, and a gentle giant stands under the stars, holding the weight of the sky upon its shoulders. But far out on the eastern horizon, beneath the quiet stars, the thick shadows of the lowland forest begin to stir with the first faint, cool whisper of a changing wind. Chapter 5. Feeding all day. Imagine a life unhurried by time, uncomplicated by urgency, and stripped of every burden save for the quiet, continuous act of sustaining oneself. In the deep green shadows of the late Jurassic, where the days unfurl in an endless cycle of warm light and soft mist. The sun rises over a world that belongs entirely to the Titans. The morning air is crisp, heavy with the sharp, clean fragrance of pine resin and wet earth. Sunlight filters through the dense upper branches of ancient araucaria trees, scattering golden dust across the forest floor. And high above the ground, where the cool breeze whispers through the needle-laden canopy, the day begins as every day has begun for 100 seasons, with a slow, deliberate reach toward the sky. To fuel a body the size of a mountain, life becomes a perpetual, soothing harvest. Every single day, as the earth turns slowly beneath the stars and sun, this gentle giant must gather nearly 400 kilograms of lush, green vegetation. It is a number that sounds staggering to human ears, but to the Brachiosaurus, it is simply the natural rhythm of existence, an effortless baseline of being. There is no anxiety in this constant need, no frantic searching or desperate competition. The primeval forest is an boundless feast, an infinite green ocean stretching across thousands of miles of floodplain, offering its riches freely to the only creature capable of reaching its highest crowns. Watch the small, delicately sculpted head move with breathtaking precision among the topmost boughs, 9 meters above the soft earth, where no land predator could ever hope to climb. The animal glides its crown through the emerald foliage like a quiet ship navigating calm waters. Its dark, gentle eyes discern the softest, most nutrient-rich shoots nestled among the tough needles. There is a surprising, almost tender delicacy to its movements. The head sways in small, graceful arcs, weaving between woody stems with the practiced ease of a master craftsman. Then comes the sound, a rich, deeply satisfying symphony of the forest. The peg-like teeth, smooth and rounded like polished river pebbles, press firmly against a laden branch. With a slow, deliberate tilt of the neck, the animal strips the foliage away. You can hear the crisp, rhythmic snap of tender twigs, the soft tear of waxy needles, and the clean crackle of fresh wood breaking gently in the quiet morning air. A wave of intense, aromatic scent releases instantly into the canopy, the sharp, sweet perfume of crushed evergreen, resinous sap, and sun-warmed pine, drifting down through the misty branches like an invisible cloud of peace. Unlike the smaller creatures rustling in the undergrowth far below, the Brachiosaurus does not waste time or energy chewing. Its teeth were not built for grinding. They are elegant, simple tools designed solely to gather and strip. Branch after branch is harvested in steady, hypnotic repetition, and the rich plant material is swallowed whole, sliding smoothly down the long, sweeping passage of the neck. The true magic of nourishment happens far below, in the vast, subterranean cavern of its massive digestive tract. Down in that warm, dark sanctuary, a slow, continuous fermentation takes place, effortlessly transforming tons of tough, fibrous green into pure, steady life. There is a profound, meditative beauty in this way of living. The giant moves through its day with an unshakable inner calm, driven not by appetite born of scarcity, but by a quiet, harmonious alignment with the world around it. It takes a few slow steps, the massive, column-like legs sinking gently into the damp moss, shifting the mountain of its body just enough to bring a new grove of untouched canopy within reach. The long neck sweeps in a wide, effortless horizon, a living bridge moving seamlessly from one pine crown to the next. Hours melt away like mist in the morning sun. The day moves from the cool gold of dawn to the deep, heavy heat of midday, yet the rhythm never changes. The sun warms the broad, dark slope of the giant's back, drying the night dew from its weathered hide, while high above, in the shade of the highest leaves, the harvesting continues. Snap, strip, swallow. Snap, strip, swallow. The sound becomes a lullaby for the forest, a rhythmic, reassuring pulse that tells every living thing nearby that all is well, that the world remains balanced and whole. Think of the absolute freedom in this existence. This is a creature that knows no fear. Its sheer, breathtaking scale lifts it entirely outside the realm of conflict. No hungry carnivore stalked through the shadows of the Morrison Formation could ever pose a threat to a mountain that walks. There are no territories to defend with frantic energy, no complex traps to build, no desperate hunts through the dark. There is only the vast, peaceful forest, the warm sun on its skin, and the endless canopy waiting patiently at eye level. As the afternoon light begins to soften, turning the deep green of the woodland into shades of amber and bronze, the giant slowly finishes with one grove and drifts toward the next. Its movements are so fluid, so unhurried, that it seems almost to float across the savanna floor. A gentle breeze sweeps through the forest, rustling the high needles and carrying the scent of the nearby river. The small head pauses for a moment, lifted high into the cool air stream, tasting the changing breeze, before dipping softly back into the lush emerald leaves. To witness this continuous, serene feeding is to understand a different way of being a life where purpose and rest are seamlessly woven together. The act of eating is not a task to be finished so that rest can begin. The feeding is the rest. It is a slow, graceful dance with the living earth, a quiet celebration of abundance that lasts from the first light of dawn to the deep, starry quiet of night. Chapter 6: Herding and Movement. To see a herd of Brachiosaurus in motion is to witness the very earth coming alive and walking. As dozens of these colossal beings step forward in unison, the ground beneath the open country begins to speak in a low, continuous rumble. It is a soft, rhythmic thrumming that vibrates through the damp soil, through the roots of the ancient ferns, and into the cool evening air. A gentle cloud-like haze of fine dust rises behind them, catching the last amber rays of sunlight and turning the air into a shimmering golden mist. The sound of their passage is a soothing, elemental symphony, the heavy, cushioned thud of pillar-like feet meeting the earth, the soft rustle of high, leathery skin brushing against tall pine branches, and the slow, cavernous exhale of 100 lungs breathing as a single quiet tide. As this majestic procession glides across the plain, the smaller world around them simply steps aside. Flocks of primitive birds with feathered wings rise lazily from the low thickets, settling in the higher, undisturbed branches ahead. Tiny, swift-footed dinosaurs dart gracefully between the massive, moving columns of their legs. There is no panic in their retreat, no sudden terror, but rather a calm, instinctual respect for absolute scale. To these smaller creatures, The passing herd is not a threat of violent predation, but an unyielding force of nature, like a gentle, moving river or a slow, rolling storm that one simply steps around to avoid being crushed under the sheer, indifferent weight of existence. Guiding this vast, peaceful parade is an ancient wisdom born of decades spent walking these seasonal paths. At the front of the herd walks a matriarch, a massive, weathered female whose towering crest bears the soft scars of countless seasons. Her body carries the deep, collective memory of the landscape. She knows where the great rivers shrink into cool, drinking pools during the dry months, and where the highest, sweetest conifer groves blossom when the rains return. Behind her, in a synchronized, slow-moving column, follow the generations, younger adults matching her stately stride, and smaller, growing juveniles safely cushioned within the center of the herd, sheltered on all sides by a forest of towering legs and sweeping necks. They move not as isolated individuals, but as a single harmonious family, bound together by subtle, low-frequency rumbles that travel silently through the ground, far below the range of human hearing, keeping every member connected across miles of open country. As the twilight deepens into a deep, velvety indigo, the herd approaches the broad, winding ribbon of a great Jurassic river. The water reflects the rising moon, gleaming like a cool, silvery path through the dark savanna. Without breaking their calm, measured rhythm, the matriarch steps down into the shallows. The entry into the river is a magnificent, slow-motion event. Massive, broad feet press into the moving current, sending up tall, gentle plumes of water that splash softly against their weathered hides. The cool water swirls around their pillar-like legs, but the powerful current barely inconveniences them. To a creature of 60 tons, the rushing river is nothing more than a gentle, refreshing breeze against their feet. One by one, the giants wade deeper into the river, their long, graceful necks held high above the mist rising from the water, their small heads floating calmly toward the opposite shore, like dark stars gliding through the silvery light. Chapter 7: Young Among Giants. Imagine a small, smooth stone nestled deep in the warm, dark loam of the ancient forest floor. It sits in a hidden depression, carefully blanketed under layers of decaying fern fronds and damp, resinous earth, far below the towering green ceiling of the Morrison woodland. Outside, the night air is cool and still, filled with the gentle, rhythmic hum of the primeval world. But here, within the soft, dark sanctuary of the nest, a quiet miracle is unfolding. Inside an egg no larger than a basketball, a tiny life rests, waiting for the precise moment when the boundary between the quiet interior world and the vast, starry universe outside will finally dissolve. A subtle hairline crack forms across the smooth, pale shell. It begins not as a violent break, but as a tender, hesitant sigh. A tiny snout, tipped with an ancient, delicate instinct, presses against the calcified wall. The crack widens, unspooling like a silver thread under the soft moonlight that filters down through the dense pine needles above. Piece by piece, the shell gives way, crumbling gently into the dark soil until a tiny creature tumbles out into the cool, damp air of the Jurassic night. It is breathtakingly small. To look upon this newborn is to marvel at the strange, beautiful humor of nature. Here stands an animal that could easily rest within the cradled arms of a human being, a fragile, delicate creature weighing no more than a few kilograms, born into a world governed by living mountains. Its skin is soft, supple, and pale, entirely unarmored against the sharp edges of the world. Its legs, though proportioned like sturdy little posts, are slender and trembling as they take their very first steps upon the mossy earth. Its neck, a modest, graceful curve, reaches up only a short distance, barely clearing the tops of the low-lying fern fronds that surround its birthplace. In this first, fragile hour, the world is an overwhelming tapestry of sensory wonder. The night air smells of fresh rain, crushed pine, and the rich, sweet musk of ancient vegetation. Every rustle of a dry leaf, every whisper of the wind through the high canopy sounds like a vast, mysterious melody to the tiny hatchling. It blinks its large, dark eyes, reflecting the cold, distant glitter of the stars, entirely unaware that the towering shapes swaying silently in the moonlight high above are the very shadows of what it is destined to become. For a creature born so tiny in a realm of absolute titans, time is a swift and urgent river. Survival in this ancient landscape depends entirely on a single, astonishing race against the shadows, a race to outgrow vulnerability itself. The growth of a young Brachiosaurus is one of the most miraculous, rapid transformations in the entire history of life on Earth. It does not grow with the slow, imperceptible drift of smaller animals. It explodes with a quiet, unstoppable momentum. Driven by a blazing, efficient internal furnace, its body transforms week by week, month by month, expanding at a pace that seems almost visible to the naked eye. In those early, delicate months, life is a quiet art of concealment and constant nourishment. The young animal stays low to the earth, moving softly through the dense, shadows-draped thickets of cycads and horsetails that blanket the forest floor. The world at ground level is a place of sharp contrasts and perpetual vigilance, while its distant parents move through the upper atmosphere in absolute, invulnerable peace. The hatchling must navigate a world shared with swift, keen-eyed hunters. Out in the cool twilight, the sharp silhouette of an Allosaurus might move silently through the trees, a stealthy, patient predator looking for any small, unguarded life that strays too far from the safety of the green thickets. To survive, the young giant relies on two great shields: the dense cover of the ancient undergrowth and the overwhelming, protective presence of its family. It quickly learns to position itself near the center of the herd, walking within the vast, moving forest of its parents' legs. To look upward from the perspective of the hatchling is like gazing up through the massive stone pillars of an ancient, open-air cathedral. Above it, the broad, sweeping bodies of the adults form a living roof, sheltering it from the heat of the sun and the cold of the night wind. The heavy, rhythmic thrumming of their colossal feet pressing into the earth becomes a constant, reassuring cradle song, a deep vibration that tells the young animal it is safe, surrounded on all sides by an unyielding fortress of bone and muscle. Day after day, under the golden canopy of the Jurassic sun, the young Brachiosaurus eats with a quiet, single-minded devotion. It strips the tender, moisture-rich leaves of low ferns, the soft shoots of young ginkgo trees, and the sap-laden fronds of dwarf cycads. Every leaf swallowed is instantly converted into the building blocks of its impossible future. Dense, air-filled chambers begin to form within its rapidly lengthening neck bones. Muscle fibers thicken and weave into powerful cables along its spine. Its slender legs broaden into dense, structural columns capable of bearing ever-increasing weight. As the seasons turn, the transformation is breathtaking. Within a few short years, the delicate hatchling that once hid beneath the fronds of a fern rises high above the undergrowth. Its neck stretches skyward, passing through the middle layers of the forest, reaching beyond the height of any land predator that walks the earth. The world that once seemed terrifying and vast slowly shrinks in proportion to its rising perspective. The sharp, watchful carnivores of the forest floor, once terrifying shadows capable of ending its brief life in a single instant, become small, distant shapes moving far below its feet, entirely incapable of threatening a mountain that continues to reach for the stars. With this astonishing growth comes a profound shift in consciousness. The young animal begins to internalize the deep, timeless rhythm of the herd. It watches the old matriarch at the front of the line, learning the invisible pathways carved across the Morrison Formation. It learns where the sweet, cool springs bubble up from the red earth during the dry months. It discovers which high groves of araucaria yield the softest, most resinous cones. It feels the subtle, low-frequency rumbles traveling through the ground, understanding the silent language that connects the herd across miles of open savanna. There comes a morning when the young giant steps out from the shadow of the undergrowth and lifts its head into the high, sun-drenched upper canopy for the very first time. The air up here is cool, pure, and rich with the sweet scent of sun-warmed pine needles. The wind whispers softly against its face, carrying the distant, faint smell of rain falling on mountains hundreds of miles away. Looking down, it sees the vast green ocean of the forest floor stretching out below like a soft, mossy carpet. It takes a long, slow breath, expanding a broad chest that now carries the quiet, unstoppable power of its ancestors. The transition is complete. The fragile hatchling that once tumbled from a tiny shell into the dark soil has become an unshakable force of nature, a gentle titan that walks in the high air, entirely at peace, untouchable and serene under the endless vault of the Jurassic sky. The young giant takes a slow, deliberate step forward, its broad foot settling deep into the damp earth beside the deep prints of its parents. The herd moves as one, a slow, majestic procession drifting toward the golden horizon of a new evening. And as the cool twilight settles over the ancient savanna, wrapping the towering trees and the quiet river valleys in a blanket of soft indigo, the young titan pauses among the high branches, resting its head in the cool air, completely safe, completely whole, and deeply at rest in the eternal peace of its world. Chapter 8. Sounds of the Herd. Listen closely and let the quiet, rhythmic cadence of the ancient world wrap itself around you like a soft, heavy blanket. The darkness of the late Jurassic night is never truly empty, nor is it ever truly silent. It is a vast, breathing tapestry woven from thousands of subtle threads of sound, some as light as the brush of a dragonfly's wing, others so deep and heavy that they ripple through the dark soil beneath your feet before they ever reach your ears. As you drift deeper into the stillness of your room, step back into that primeval valley where the air is warm and heavy with resin, and let the acoustic landscape of a bygone epoch carry you into a state of total, unbroken rest. Before the sun ever touches the horizon, the Jurassic world sings its morning song. It begins with the low, delicate hum of the ancient forest floor. Countless insects, early crickets, primitive cicadas, and shimmering beetles vibrate against the damp bark of cycads and horsetails, creating a soft, continuous background hum that fills the lower air like the rustle of dry silk. Far above, in the higher reaches of the warm atmosphere, the pale sky belongs to the pterosaurs. Their calls are thin, dry, and musical, drifting down through the morning mist like silver ribbons creaky. Rhythmic cries that echo off the sheer rock faces of distant red canyons and fade into the boundless horizon. And through the heart of the valley runs the river, an eternal, soothing voice flowing over smooth river stones and muddy banks. Its water laps gently against the roots of ancient conifers, creating a steady, liquid lullaby that never ceases. It is a peaceful, comforting backdrop, a natural metronome keeping time for a world that moves without hurry or strain. Yet beneath all of these familiar sounds, the insects, the flying reptiles, the flowing river there, lies another layer of sound entirely, a hidden language that belongs only to the giants. If you were to stand in the center of the Morrison floodplain while a herd of Brachiosaurus grazes nearby, you might at first think the air was still. But if you closed your eyes and pressed the palm of your hand against the cool, damp earth, you would feel a sudden, magical transformation. The ground beneath you is alive with a deep, subterranean pulse. It is the infrasound of the herd vibrations produced so low in frequency that they bypass the delicate mechanisms of the ear and speak directly to the bones of the earth and the bodies of those standing upon it. Deep within the cavernous chests of these massive animals, inside vocal structures lined with powerful, resonant membranes, low-frequency rumbles are born. They travel down the long, air-filled column of the neck, building in momentum until they are released not into the air, but down through those immense, pillar-like legs and into the subterranean rock. These low rumbles can travel for miles through the solid earth, curving around hills, passing under rivers, and sweeping through dense forests without losing their quiet power. To the herd, this infrasonic rumble is a living web that binds them together across immense distances. A matriarch standing at the edge of a high conifer ridge can send a soft, reassuring pulse into the earth, letting a grazing adult 3 miles away know that the path ahead is clear and rich with food. The distant giant feels the vibration rise up through the fat pads of its broad feet, a warm, familiar hum that whispers through its skeleton, offering an unshakable sense of security. They are never truly alone, never isolated, for they are constantly enveloped in a continuous, silent conversation that spans the horizon. Within the closeness of the herd, these sounds take on more intimate, tender tones. Listen to the soft contact calls, exchanged between a mother and her growing calf. As the young animal weaves through the high ferns near its mother's towering legs, it releases a small, soft vocalization, a high, gentle trill that sounds almost like the coo of a sleepy dove. It is a delicate sound, full of trust and quiet query, asking for reassurance in a world of overwhelming scale. In response, the mother does not look down with sudden alarm. She simply lowers her massive head a few meters through the green canopy, letting out a long, cavernous hum that vibrates through the warm air between them. It is a deep, warm tone, like the lowest note of a massive wooden pipe organ, wrapping around the young calf like a physical embrace. The vibration washes over the small animal's skin, soothing its doubts, settling its heart, and reminding it that it is sheltered beneath an invulnerable mountain of love and protection. Even when danger casts a brief, passing shadow across the valley, the herd's response is governed by this same deep, resonant calm. Should the sharp, predatory outline of an Allosaurus emerge from the dark edge of the conifer forest, the matriarch does not shriek or panic. She takes a single, slow step forward, lifting her long neck to its fullest height, and releases a low, booming alarm rumble that rolls across the plain like distant thunder. It is a sound that vibrates the very air, so heavy and dense that the leaves on nearby ginkgo trees tremble in response. It is not a call of fear, but a declaration of absolute, immovable presence. It warns the predator that the mountain has awoken, that the herd is united, and that no harm will come to those within its circle. Hearing that deep, thunderous resonance, the hunting carnivore pauses in the shadows, recognizing the futility of its effort, before quietly turning back into the dark woods. The threat dissolves as quickly as it appeared, replaced once more by the slow, steady rhythm of the savanna. As the long afternoon begins to fade, the golden light of the sun turns to soft shades of rose, amber, and deep violet. The air cools, and the shadows of the giant conifers stretch out across the river valley like long, resting arms. The busyness of the day slows to a crawl. The insect chorus changes its tune, softening into a slower, nocturnal hum. The pterosaurs fold their leathery wings and settle into high, rocky roosts, their dry calls fading into the gathering darkness. The river continues its smooth, liquid march toward the distant sea, its rushing waters sounding softer now in the cooling night. One by one, the members of the herd draw closer together, assembling in a wide, circular clearing where the earth is soft and the wind is gentle. The young calves nestle comfortably in the center, resting their small heads upon the soft moss, surrounded by the towering, protective pillars of their parents' legs. The adults do not lie down immediately. They stand like ancient monuments carved from the night itself, their long necks swaying gently in the cool upper breeze, holding their small heads among the highest, starlit branches. Then, slowly, the quiet work of settling begins. The low rumbles that filled the day grow quieter, softer, and spaced further apart. They become short, soothing murmurs, gentle good nights, passed from one giant to another across the resting circle. A deep, cavernous sigh ripples through the matriarch's chest as she releases the last tensions of the day. A long, warm exhalation that rustles the needles of a nearby pine like a gentle gust of wind. Another adult answers with a soft, subterranean hum that vibrates through the soil, settling every small creature in the leaf litter into a state of peaceful quiet. The air grows colder and clearer, filled with the sharp, sweet scent of damp pine needles, night-blooming flora, and river mist. Overhead, the veil of the Jurassic sky opens wide, revealing a breathtaking river of stars, brilliant, unfamiliar constellations that shed a soft, silvery radiance over the sleeping giants. The moonlight catches the gentle curves of their immense backs, painting their weathered skin in shades of slate and pearl. Now all vocal calls have ceased. The valley enters a state of holy, unbroken silence, governed only by the shared, rhythmic breathing of the herd. Listen to that sound. It is a deep, collective tide, dozens of massive lungs expanding and contracting in slow, perfect synchronization. Inhale, a broad, cavernous intake of cool night air that lifts those mighty chests toward the stars. Exhalation, a long, warm, resonant release that flows down to the earth, warming the damp moss beneath their feet. The entire herd breathes as one single, colossal organism, its heartbeat synced with the ancient pulse of the planet. Every breath is a lullaby, every exhalation a promise of safety, peace, and endless rest. The heavy vibrations in the ground soften into a gentle, continuous cradle song that lulls the entire forest to sleep. The trees stand still. The river glides silently through the shadows, and the vast, dark sky holds the sleeping world in its quiet, eternal embrace. And as you listen to that slow, harmonious breathing, feeling the deep, gentle pulse of the ancient earth beneath you, your own thoughts begin to float away like dry leaves on a calm stream. The weight of your body presses softly into your bed, perfectly supported, perfectly safe. You are wrapped in the timeless peace of the Jurassic night, carried effortlessly on the deep, quiet tide of the herd's breath, drifting deeper and deeper into a dreamless, unbroken slumber. Chapter 9. Predators Circling. The cool indigo shadows of twilight stretch across the floodplain, weaving through the ancient conifer trees like dark ribbons. As the sun sinks below the distant horizon, painting the sky in soft shades of amber and faded violet, the ambient temperature drops, bringing a crisp, quiet stillness to the Jurassic Savanna. Yet, beneath this tranquil surface, a subtle shift ripples through the cooling air. At the fringe of the forest, where the dense trees give way to the open grassland, something moves in the gloom. It is not the slow, heavy swaying of a plant-eater, but the silent, calculated glide of a hunter. Out in the open, the adult Brachiosaurus stands like a monument carved from ancient stone, nearly untouchable. An adult of this scale exists in a realm far beyond the reach of violence. To a hunting Allosaurus, a fully grown giant is less an animal and more an unyielding force of nature. A single, sweeping strike from a pillar-like leg or a heavy blow from its tail carries enough crushing force to end a hunter's life in a fraction of a second. Under normal circumstances, the predators know this, keeping a respectful, cautious distance. But nature is ever watchful, constantly searching for a rift in the armor of the giant. Tonight, a small pack of Allosaurus emerges from the tree line, their dark silhouettes low and fluid against the fading light. They do not charge. There is no sudden, frantic rush. Instead, they move with a patient, terrifying grace, circling the perimeter of the herd like silent ghosts. Their amber eyes reflect the last dying embers of the sunset as they test the air with subtle movements, watching, waiting, and measuring. They are searching for the slightest trace of vulnerability, a young calf that has strayed a few steps too far from its mother, an old adult moving with a slight, favored limp, or the faint scent of sickness carried on the evening breeze. The herd senses their presence long before a shadow crosses the grass. The subtle shift in the wind carries the sharp, musky scent of the carnivores, and an instinctual signal passes through the giants. Without a sound, without a single moment of panic, the adults begin a slow, synchronized dance of protection. The massive bodies shift, turning their heavy flanks and towering chests outward toward the tree line, forming an unbroken, living wall of bone and muscle. Within this impenetrable ring, the young calves are gently guided into the absolute center, sheltered beneath a canopy of towering legs and sweeping necks. The predators continue their quiet patrol, drifting closer, testing the boundaries of the circle. One Allosaurus takes a slow, tentative step into the open ground, its keen eyes fixed on the center of the herd. But as it steps forward, the matriarch at the edge of the circle turns her high head. She does not roar or strike. She simply takes a single, heavy step forward, bringing her immense weight down onto the earth with a deep, resonant thud that vibrates through the soil. She stands at her full height, a shadow that blots out the stars, looking down from 9 meters above. The message is absolute. The predator pauses, feeling the deep vibration of the earth beneath its feet. It reads the posture of the herd, recognizing the flawless, unyielding defense of the giants. There is no weakness here tonight, no stray calf, no failing elder. With a quiet, lingering turn, the hunter retreats back into the darkness of the trees, its pack following silently behind until they dissolve completely into the night. The threat has passed, vanishing as softly as it arrived, leaving the herd standing victorious in the calm, unbroken peace of the moonlit plain. But as the silence settles once more over the resting giants, a soft, warm breeze begins to roll in from the west, carrying the faint, unmistakable scent of rain hanging heavy in the night air. Chapter 10: Water and Rest. The late afternoon heat hangs thick and golden over the floodplain, heavy with the scents of warm clay, damp silt, and sun-baked pine needles. After miles of moving across the open savanna, the herd senses the proximity of the great river long before its cool, glittering ribbon appears through the trees. A gentle shift in the airstream brings a refreshing wave of moisture, and a subtle, quiet anticipation ripples through the giants. They do not hurry, for hurry is an emotion unknown to mountains, but their majestic stride grows smoother, drawn toward the silver waters glowing under the lowering sun, reaching the wide, muddy banks. The sheer beauty of their design becomes effortlessly clear. For a creature weighing 60 tons, bending down to touch the ground is a perilous, exhausting effort, a vulnerability that gravity punishes severely. But the Brachiosaurus was built for the heights, and its neck is a living bridge capable of reaching downward just as gracefully as it reaches toward the stars. Standing firmly on the solid riverbank, its pillar-like legs anchored like ancient oaks, the titan simply lowers its long, sweeping neck. The small head descends through the cooling air, sweeping past the tops of the river reeds, until its snout gently breaks the surface of the slow-moving current. The relief is immediate and profound. Deep within that massive frame, the long intake of cool, fresh water begins, a smooth hydraulic miracle rising through the long column of its neck. Around the adults, the younger animals wade into the shallows, their smaller bodies delighted by the sensation of the rushing stream. They splash softly, their broad feet sending up gentle plumes of cool spray that catch the amber light of the setting sun, making dark, glistening streaks along their weathered hides. The sound of the river, the soft, liquid lapping against the mud, the gentle splashing of the young, and the slow, rhythmic drinking of the herd creates a soothing, hypnotic symphony that washes away the lingering heat of the day. As the golden light fades into the deep indigo of twilight, the time for drinking gives way to the deep, silent necessity of rest. To lie down upon the earth for an animal of this magnitude is a dangerous affair, making rising a slow and laborious process. Instead, nature provided a far more elegant solution. Like the great elephants that will walk the earth millions of years in the future, the Brachiosaurus sleeps standing, rooted to the earth while its spirit floats among the stars. The herd gathers in a loose, protective cluster near the forest edge, where the shadows are soft and the evening breeze is gentle. Their four column-like legs lock into vertical alignment, allowing their skeleton to bear the full 60 tons of weight with almost zero muscular effort. Their long, graceful necks sway subtly in the still air, resting high among the cool, needle-laden branches of the pine canopy. One by one, the slow, cavernous sighs of the giants ripple through the clearing as their breathing deepens into a tranquil, synchronized rhythm. Above them, the vast Jurassic sky unfolds in all its timeless splendor, a glittering river of ancient stars shining down on a forest of sleeping giants, standing still, safe, and entirely at peace in the quiet heart of the night. But as the stars drift slowly across the heavens, a sudden, sharp chill in the night wind whispers of a distant season turning, bringing with it the subtle, restless shift of a changing world. Chapter 11. Night on the Plain. As the final embers of twilight fade beyond the western horizon, a deep, velvety darkness rolls softly across the vast floodplains of the Morrison Formation. The intense heat of the Jurassic sun gently recedes, replaced by a cool, refreshing breeze that carries the sweet scent of damp pine needles, resin, and wet clay through the quiet air. The vibrant daytime chorus of the ancient world gradually softens into a peaceful whisper. The grand calls of the day fall silent, giving way to the gentle, rhythmic hum of the night. Down in the thick carpet of ferns and fallen fronds, tiny early mammals stir softly in the shadows, their delicate rustling blending seamlessly with the low, continuous chirping of crickets and the soft, dry murmur of nocturnal insects. Above, the sky opens into a boundless, indigo canopy, painted with a brilliant, silver sea of unfamiliar stars that glisten like diamonds over the sleeping savanna. At the edge of the ancient conifer grove, the Brachiosaurus herd stands completely still, wrapped in the serene embrace of the night. They are towering silhouettes carved from darkness and moonlight, rooted firmly to the earth like gentle, living mountains, standing side by side in a loose, protective circle. Their massive forms create a sanctuary of absolute quiet. There is a profound, comforting beauty in this motionless peace. To stand among these sleeping giants is to feel time itself stretch out and slow to a dreamlike crawl. Listen closely to the quiet rhythm of their rest. Deep within those cavernous chests, the slow, magnificent tide of breath rises and falls with hypnotic perfection. You can see the gentle, sweeping expansion of their broad flanks under the pale starlight, a slow, synchronized surge of life that mirrors the peaceful rise and fall of a calm ocean. Every now and then, a long, cavernous sigh ripples softly through the canopy as one of the giants releases a warm, resin-scented breath into the cool night air. A low, subterranean rumble, delicate as a whispered lullaby, passes gently through the earth from one sleeping titan to another, reassuring the herd that all is well, that the world is safe, and that peace reigns supreme over the ancient plain. The stars drift lazily across the vast vault of the heavens, casting a soft, silvery radiance over the tranquil earth. The forest slumbers, the river glides silently through the dark, and the great giants stand guard over the night, holding the stillness of the universe upon their shoulders. Everything is calm, everything is quiet. The slow, steady breathing of the herd wraps around you like a warm, heavy blanket, pulling you deeper and deeper into a soft, dreamless rest, where the mind dissolves into the infinite, timeless peace of the ancient world. Chapter 12. A Giant's Last Day. The golden light of a late afternoon sun slants low across the Morrison Plain, amber and heavy, filtering through the high crowns of the ancient conifers. For 50 years, the rhythm of this world has been simple, steady, and vast for one old titan. Every dawn has brought the same sharp fragrance of resin and wet silt, the same slow climb of its long neck into the cool upper canopy, and the same familiar, comforting presence of the herd moving like a living mountain range across the floodplain. Countless seasons have turned under its feet, yet today unfolds with the very same unhurried grace as the first. The old giant strips a final cluster of sun-warmed pine needles, swallowing slowly, feeling the deep, familiar warmth of its own ancient body. Then, quietly, without struggle or alarm, the long journey reaches its peaceful shore. The titan stops. A profound, weightless stillness settles into its bones. The great pillar legs, which have borne 60 tons across millions of miles of primeval earth, gently yield to the pull of gravity. The animal lowers itself down, sinking slowly into the soft, damp moss of the forest floor, a position it has not taken in decades. It is not an ending of violence or pain, but a gentle, complete settling into the cool embrace of the ground. The herd does not flee, nor do they carry panic in their deep, cavernous chests. They gather around their fallen companion, forming an unbroken, silent circle that shields the old titan from the night wind. All through the long hours under the Jurassic stars, they stand watch. Their slow, synchronized breathing becomes a quiet lullaby, a shared current of warmth and memory passing through the indigo dark. They touch the weathered flank with the soft tips of their snouts, releasing low subterranean rumbles that vibrate through the soil, a final, tender conversation between giants. When the first pale silver of dawn touches the eastern horizon, painting the clouds in shades of soft rose, the herd gently shifts. Guided by the timeless instinct of their kind, they take their first slow steps forward, moving onward across the shimmering savanna to follow the river's call. Behind them, in the peaceful shade of the conifer grove, the old titan remains, resting softly as the morning dew settles over its skin. It returns to the very soil that nourished it, merging with the ferns, the trees, and the ancient stone, becoming an eternal part of the earth it walked so gracefully. A giant's life, peaceful and complete, resting forever under the starry sky.